Hi, my name's Beth. I have aniridia. I'm 39 years old and I live in the northeast of England. I have two children, Edward, who's 8, and Daisy, who's 2.5. And Daisy also has aniridia. I'm going to talk today about sleep and melatonin and my experience of getting melatonin and how it's improved my sleep. So from ever since I can remember, I used to fall asleep okay and then wake up at 1, 2 in the morning and then not get back to sleep for 4, 5 hours at a time, or my sleep, I wouldn't be able to go to sleep, but it would kind of get later and later and I'd end up falling asleep later, and that was in my teenage years. So I would end up not going to sleep till midnight or 1 o'clock and then not waking up till 10, 11, 12 in the day, which obviously really impacts on your ability to do things. And I could fall asleep at a drop of a hat anywhere. I used to get in the car, fall asleep. I used to get back from work and literally lie down and fall asleep. And I would have a nap whenever I could. And it was really impacting on me. And the lack of sleep made me quite anxious. So I would be quite anxious in the day as well as quite anxious at night. And I tried a lot of things like just taking Nitol or not having TV before bed and reading a book and doing things relaxing. I tried staying in bed and not doing anything and trying to clear my mind and get back off. Or I tried even getting up to do things, which got a bit waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and deciding to do a bit of drawing to see if it would make me fall asleep. And again, I'd be really tired in the day, really anxious, and quite low. And we never knew that aniridia could link with sleep at all. So it was only when I'd started reading research that said it affects the pineal gland and that melatonin could help. And I decided to take part in the research that went on at the National Institute of Health in Washington about 11, 12 years ago now. So I flew out by myself and underwent loads of testing and had an MRI, and that came back that my pineal gland was small. And while I was over there, I actually picked up some melatonin because you can buy it over the counter. And I noticed a difference. After taking it, straight away, I noticed that I was ready to fall asleep. And then I noticed that it would make me stay asleep. So I came back from there, and I've luckily got a really good GP practice. So I went with all the information that I'd got from the research, including the pineal gland and about having auditory processing disorder, which I didn't know I had until I went and underwent the testing, and there was some bloods and things. So I came back and I said I'd like to be prescribed melatonin, to be told it's not a licensed drug here, so it has to be prescribed by a consultant, even though you can buy it over the counter in America and other countries, and that would have to be referred on for somebody to prescribe something. So it was quite lucky that I'd bought tubs of melatonin while I was in the US, because it took a little time to get a referral. So I was referred to a sleep neurologist at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle, and I believe they're not very common, but they specialise in circadian rhythm disorders. And I had to have another sleep study. I'd had one at the NIH, but I had another sleep study just to check that I didn't have sleep apnea with being overweight and things. And then I spoke with her about the difficulties I was having falling asleep, and the difficulties I was having when I fell asleep, but then I would wake up and not be able to get back off to sleep, and how I could fall asleep anywhere. And it was having a big impact on my life because I was so tired all of the time. And she decided that she would prescribe melatonin. She said that she sees a lot of people with unremarkable pineal glands, and that she didn't necessarily know that that would be the issue, that it might be something else, but I could try it. And I've been taking melatonin since then. I was discharged back to the GP, and I was taking standard release melatonin, that's the off-license melatonin, for a number of years, up until a couple of years ago. And I take it half an hour before I go to bed. And I fall asleep fairly quickly, and I stay asleep. I don't wake up and stay awake for hours and hours. I'm not falling asleep in the day anymore. On car journeys, I'm not having naps, and it's really, really improved because it's got my sleep into a routine of going to bed about 10 o'clock, waking up about 7 o'clock, not needing to nap, not being tired. So I'm not getting home from work and falling asleep, or I was falling asleep on the train on the way to work in the morning, and all that's gone. And then a couple of years ago, there was a problem with the standard release melatonin, and we couldn't get hold of it. So I've now been put on Circadin, which is a extended release melatonin, and I actually think that that works even better than the standard release melatonin for me. So I've been taking that, and also once I had Daisy, her sleep has been quite disturbed and quite unreliable, and I'm told that she won't be given melatonin for a good while yet, because they expect babies to have unreliable sleep. But she has the same problem. She can be exhausted and fall asleep, and then she'll wake up an hour later and she'll be awake for 5 hours, and then I have to wake her up like 3 hours later, and she's exhausted, so she's fallen asleep 2 hours after that. And we've done everything to limit her nap. She doesn't have a nap anymore. We limited her naps really early. She's got a very consistent bedtime at 7 o'clock, and she has a bath and she has stories. If she doesn't have TV for an hour before bed, and at the minute we're in quite an okay period of sleep, but I'm keeping really mindful that it's something that can come back in the future and something that might affect her, especially knowing how much taking melatonin has really helped me. It's just a bit of a pain to get the prescription in the first place, to having to go through a consultant to get it prescribed. But luckily my GP has been willing to prescribe it since then and hasn't wanted it to be reviewed or anything. So I hope that's helped some of you, and I'll be around for questions if anyone has any questions for me, and have a great rest of the conference.